Can you tell us a little bit about how much our baby's eating
Yeah.
or consuming a formula per day?
And we have a beautiful slide of the sample feeding for a baby. And so remember, for the first 6 months of life, if a baby's being exclusively formula fed, this is how much by age, how much fluid they're getting in per day. Now, these are guidelines. Some take more, some take less, but these are the guidelines. So when I calculated how much aluminum, for example, that a baby would get over 1 month, it turned out to be an ounce. When I looked at our formula, which had the most aluminum, that's 1 ounce of aluminum. That is so toxic. So these metals, these toxic metals, are cumulative. So babies who are not excreting them are taking this in every day, every 2, 3, 4 hours until 6 months when we introduce solid foods. We don't start to give wean babies off of formula until about 12 months of age. That's by tradition when many babies are transitioned to regular cow's milk. Most baby formulas are derived from cow. Historically, they've used horse, donkey, camel milks, but now we essentially use cow milk for our source of dairy.
Okay, we're going to get right into the results, and then we're going to have Stephanie comment on the results. Let's get that slide up. The results of the toxic metals in baby formula were that 100% of the 40 samples tested contained aluminum and lead. We tested 20 different brands, 2 samples of each from different locations across the country. 50% of the samples tested positive for arsenic, 55% for mercury, which is very toxic, 35% for cadmium, which is a carcinogenic. 6 of the 20 formulas were positive for all 5 toxic metals in both samples. And these are not low levels. These are concerning levels. At 41,000 parts per billion, that's 41 parts per million, aluminum levels in goat's milk baby formula were 4,000 to 40,000 times higher than the other metals in the formulas tested. And this was a very big surprise for us and something that really needs to be investigated further. Levels of mercury in 4 samples measured above the limit allowed by the FDA in drinking water. And levels of cadmium in both samples of 1 formula were nearly twice the level allowed in drinking water. So these were some very surprising results. Stephanie, do you want to tell us what you thought when you saw these results?
Yeah, I was especially surprised that we got so many positive results because I expected to get a whole bunch of not found, and we had very few. It was found in just about all of the samples.
Especially since we tested for organic, we tested plant-based, we tested non-organic, and we tested soy-based and goat's milk and cow's milk formula. So we expected some of them at least to not be positive, correct?
Right. And the thing is that the combinations is what makes things really toxic, and nobody studies the combinations. It's bad enough they hardly even do enough studying of the individual metals, but in combination, they are much more toxic than they are individually.
Yeah, and we have some more information, some slides we're going to talk about with that in studies. But Dr. Pero, what did you think when you saw these results?
Well, I was so surprised. What really knocked me off my chair was that 100% were positive for aluminum and lead. And as Stephanie already mentioned, not all heavy, or I should say toxic metals carry the same neurologic weight. So for example, mercury is really toxic, then lead, then probably least aluminum. But again, there's this synergism and what we even refer to as negative synergism. Together, they have a worsening effect. Lead, there is no safe level of lead. So the fact that they were all lead positive was frankly shocking. And the effect that we reported out aluminum in parts per million, and that was 1,000 plus times higher than the other metals, which were parts per billion, was quite shocking. And the fact that some formulas had all the metals was equally, I was quite surprised. I was glad to see that not as many samples contain mercury, which is what I thought we were going to find were more samples with mercury. But there's no safe level of mercury either. We allow it. It's in fish, various fish samples. But let's be clear, it's extremely neurotoxic for children and sort of the development loss of IQ. It easily crosses the blood-brain barrier. So I'd have to say I was pretty amazed by the findings.